We're live. We're live. We're live. We're live. Okay, hold on. Let me got people blowing my phone up. I can always edit this, but um I'm gonna see. I wanted to share it in a group before we get started
Okay.
and see what we're working on. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. The pleasure is all mine. I
This
am just so honored that you allowed me this opportunity.
this is amazing because having you on the show um is it's almost like having a flawless victory.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really good having you on the show. Let me see. I'm checking it. Oh yeah, we are live. It says live now.
Yes, it's really good.
So we got
having you
got a
on the
little
show.
feedback.
See,
I'm gonna share it.
oh yeah, we are live. It says live
You,
now.
you, hear, you hear something that we live? Okay, so let me get one more. I'm gonna share it to one group. And after I share it to that group, we're gonna go ahead and get this party started.
all right.
A lot of people don't even know about the work you're doing with the cave. So this is gonna be real good.
I am deeply honored, Carter. You have no idea how humble I am in this season.
We getting ready. We getting ready to break red here though. We getting ready
All
to talk
right.
about. So we gonna go what about 5 hours a night?
Really, Carter? You don't want me to fall asleep on your guests, do you?
No, please don't do that. Please don't
I won't
do
do
it.
that. I promise you I won't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Let's see. All right, let's see. We got that there. Boom. Mental health. Are we well? Okay, so we're in there. All right. First of all, let me make sure you don't have nothing playing in the background, do you?
No, sir.
That gives us a little feedback and kickback there. I'll make sure my phone is off so they don't interrupt you as you begin to start talking there.
Awesome.
All right. But first of all, I want to thank y'all for joining us today on Mind, Body, Spirit, MBS. And I'm Chris Carter. And today I'm interviewing Shayla Paul from Mad Cave. Um, and it's a organization designed to help men with mental health. And Shayla, I just want to start. We've been going through a lot with the pandemic, and a lot of things have transpired over this time. People have experienced a great sense of loss, and they're starting to get certain things. They're starting to get certain things back, but it still was a loss. It still was some things that they thought that was going to be there, and all of a sudden they had it taken away. And then the ability to be able to cope with that is another. Uh, it's just a whole nother situation in which so many people had to deal with. So I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to ask you this one question. Are we well in today's society? Are we well?
I think we are better than we've ever been, Carter, if I had to say that. Considering the fact that mostly everyone has probably never endured a pandemic of this magnitude, I think overall, what I have seen as far as the entire nation actually doing what they need to do to try to stop the spread of COVID, I think we're doing better than most communities probably would have expected. Despite the surprises, despite the deaths or the loss or even the sickness that is still plaguing our nation, I actually have to commend our country for how well we have been handling the pandemic. Some people haven't handled it as well, but overall, I am very, very pleased with what I have seen as far as the nation itself.
One of the things when you say people handle it well, um, when the pandemic first hit, nobody ever thought that the whole country would just shut down. Like
Yeah.
we can't go anywhere. People were like dying all around us. People were losing jobs. No money was coming in. Everything that we took for granted, everything that we said, hey, it's here. We got it. We're going to have a good time. All of that was just removed. It was like the world just stopped. And in that particular time, many people who, lived alone, who, they were, caught up in the jobs, different kind of functions that they were going to. They were so wrapped up in those things that they never took time just to kind of slow down. And I
Mhm.
think one of the things the pandemic actually did, it made people it just stopped, like the whole world just stopped. And then when
Mhm.
it stopped, you had people that were so used to interacting with other people via, just going to a simple place like a movie that was
Mhm.
taken away. And then, the jobs that they had were just taken away. So a lot of people started experiencing anxiety. They started experiencing depression. Then they were losing loved ones in the process while all this is going on. And one of the things I heard one person actually say was having no job, nowhere to go, and their loved one went in the hospital and they couldn't go visit them. And it was like they were just there and they felt like they just couldn't do nothing. And it was just like a loss, like a depression there. What are some of the things that you've learned through Mad Cave to help people deal with those things like anxiety when they experience it?
Well, one of the things that I have been encouraging the majority of the people that have reached out to us is number one, process it one moment at a time. Don't try to process it all at one time. So literally every single day, people were watching news, trying to follow up on new updates, things with the vaccine, things that were going on with the world reopening, of course, the mask mandate. So there were so many different things that were changing day by day. And so one of the things that I had to do, as well as I encourage some of my family and friends, is to take a break from the news because literally it was becoming a little overwhelming for every single day for there to be a new change or a new update or the CDC or DHEC not being able to answer some of those questions that people were just really bogging their minds down with. And so, what I had to encourage myself as well as my family is just take one day at a time. Try to process just getting through today first. As far as the job was concerned, the government was doing what they had to do to try to ensure that families were still being fed. There were different things that were put in place to try to maintain people's salaries. So literally, it was like, please do not bite off more than you can chew at this moment. And so, literally, my mother still to this moment does not watch the news because it became a little overwhelming just to consistently watch these changes and these certain uncertainties that was really building the anxiety in a lot of people because there wasn't nothing that was guaranteed. It was all based on what they were seeing day by day. And so it built up a lot of anxiety in people
Mhm.
watching the news. Just to be honest with you, the news itself was just, you would have one station saying one thing, then you would have another entity saying something different. And so you had all these different symptoms. And so it built up that anxiety in people. So I was trying to encourage people to listen to the instructions from CDC, wear your mask, wash your hands, but just take this time. If you're home, take this time, gather your thoughts, do some things around the house that you normally wouldn't have time to do. Keep yourself busy and allow whatever's going on in the world to take its place without you building up so much of that anxiety about it. Because literally, we had no control over it at all. Even if we wore our mask every day, there were still people that chose not to wear their mask. There were still people that still chose not to wash their hands and so forth. So we had to literally be concerned about ourselves in this pandemic when we were home. We literally had to know what we could and what we could not handle and only bite off what they could handle in that moment.
Yeah, and I noticed that's one of the things you were talking about. Just taking biting off too much, or actually um, taking things, you couldn't help but take things seriously, especially
Yeah.
when you got so many things coming up on you that you're so used to taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
In that particular time, like, what was it that made you go into like, I know you wanted to see people help mentally, but Mad Caving as a woman helping men, like, why?
I found that, and this was just based on observation, I found that men would talk to men about certain topics. That was a comfort zone for them. But there were other topics that some men only felt comfortable around a nurturing nature, a woman, someone that basically carried that same peace as if it was their mother. And so what I found is that by not putting them in a judgment zone, just a very calm conversation, just us basically talking like two old friends from high school, you found that men were more open to open up with the opposite sex versus with the same sex about issues that they have been dealing with. So, believe it or not, I found it very easy to just listen and also being able to learn from how men process different things in their lives by just going through this pandemic. It gave me a lot of data to pull and actually observe. So moving forward, as we begin to open the world back up, I'm able to understand literally how men respond to different things that they deal with in their lives.
That's something amazing. I got to pull that one part out that you were able to listen to men, because when men speak, a lot of times people want us to go into depth about how we feel, and literally whatever comes out of a man's mouth is exactly how he feels. And so many times, sometimes it's judged, or sometimes it's shut down, or it's not. It's kind of like you don't hear it. Yeah, I mean, was it hard for you to actually listen to what men were saying? Because it's always, well, I'm not gonna say always, but from certain perspectives, it's like, as a man talking, you and being a woman that you want to help, like you want to help him solve the problem versus just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna listen to him.
Mhm. Um, what became easy for me was as I listened, I literally visualized different solutions to that problem. So I never, ever, ever respond with one response or one way. So I gave him options to look at that same problem from different angles. And so what I found is that a lot of times when people are going through different things, particularly men, they have a one-track mind. It's just a one solution. If it's a car payment, if it's child support, hey, I just need $600. I just need what I need. He's not thinking about the other option because that's just how he's thinking. He only knows one option for that problem. And so what we do is, while people are explaining to me what they're going through, I'm already visualizing different options. So when I start playing out the different options, it literally rewires their thinking. And now it builds that hope in them to say, I didn't look at it like that, or I didn't think about doing it this way. And that's not necessarily a negative thing, because a lot of times when you're anxious, you want it to be over. Just as quick as it started, you want it to be over. And so you just want something quick fix that's going to fix that problem so you can keep moving. And so a lot of times what I've had to teach them is it's a process. Whatever the problem is, let's chunk it. Just like I say, bite off a little bit at a time. Let's process this first. Then we'll move to the next step. Then we'll move to the next step until we reach a medium where he can literally make a decision based on that realignment of his thinking.
Yeah. And when you say realignment of his thinking, like, you mean the ability to be able to change gears, or just kind of focus on one thing at a time?
Well, the ability to consider other options to solve those problems.
Okay.
Because literally he's literally on a one-track mind. He's like, hey, I want it to go this way. This is the way I want it. But he's tried it and he's been unsuccessful. So every single time he's been unsuccessful, it builds more anxiety and it builds more frustration. And so what our option is we come and we give them other ideas or other opportunities that would make them think, oh, I didn't think about it that way. So it shifts them a little bit. But it doesn't take them off the course of the final solution, but it gives them other ways to get to that solution. And so that's how we work. We try to give them other ways to reach that final solution without them getting so frustrated. That's almost like saying if you wanted to go buy a car, right? And you knew there was only one dealership in town that had that car. But every time you went to that dealership, you was like, okay, I couldn't get approved from the dealership. I couldn't get approved from the dealership. And then all of a sudden someone tells you, well, you know, you can go to the credit union and they can finance the car for you. So now he's not even thinking, oh, wow, I didn't know I couldn't go to the credit union and get them to finance the car for me. I was thinking I had to go straight to the dealership. So all it is you're still getting the car. That's the only thing he wants. He wants the car, but he doesn't know there's another way to get to that car. And so literally all we do is give them other options to reach that final solution that they're looking forward to.
And, you know, that's something just so providing those opportunities to understand, you know, like you say, a lot of times we as men, we want to go and solve a problem and solve it like sometimes it's immediately. Sometimes it's like we have to get away and think about it a little bit and process it and then come back to it. And just those things right there in a whole, I see where it gives me an opportunity to be heard. And you know, there's so many men that I listen to and I talk to that just feel like a lot of times they're either not heard or they're just misunderstood. Like they can, or they're judged for what how they say it versus what they're saying. And I mean, I've heard women say the same thing too. I'm judged for how I say it versus what I'm saying. And when you deal with people, okay, so now you deal with people that have the anxiety and they're trying to express what they're going through. What's some of the difficult things you've seen in men? And I know you deal with you know, black, white, you know, men of different ethnic backgrounds. But, you know, as a black man, I want to ask you, when you deal with black men, what are some of the obstacles you face when it comes to men getting help in the mental health field?
Okay, well, the biggest obstacle that I've seen is when it comes up, they know how to suppress it right back down. I can ask them a question. It could be something about their childhood. I can ask them something about a relationship, and they will immediately say, I don't want to talk about that. Because there's an anxiety that comes with that question. There's an uncomfortable feeling that comes with that question. There's some pain that comes with that question. And like any human being, I don't want to deal with that pain. I don't want to bring those feelings up. So what I do is at that moment, I stop and I say, don't stop it. Bring it up. And they're like, I don't want to talk about it. And so before I get them to talk about it, the first thing I ask them is why you don't want to talk about it. And the first thing they say is, it pissed me off just to think about it. Or I don't even want to go there. Well, you have to deal with those feelings about the issue before you can even talk about the issue. And so the biggest obstacle that I come across is it will come up, but as soon as it comes up, they'll suppress it right back down. They're like, I don't want to talk about it. And they go into a shutdown mode. That shutdown mode is it's a defense mechanism. That's all it is. It's just their way of protecting their the best way to say it is increasing that anxiety because it just makes them feel uncomfortable. And so in that zone, what we do is we just, okay, I'm gonna sit right here because at some point we're gonna have to deal with it. So what I do sometimes to get them to probe it out is I start throwing different examples. Is it about work? Is it about family? Is it about your children? Is it about, and so when I throw those things out, I can get those simple questions or those simple answers such as yes. And so when I get a yes, yes, it's about work. Okay, is it your boss? Is it your coworker? Is it your pay? So I get those little yeses, and those little yeses will eventually become open-ended questions. Well, tell me about your job. Tell me about your pay. And so that's when it comes up. But I don't press. That's the biggest thing. You have to be able to give them an environment where they don't feel pressured. If they want to talk about it, they can talk about it. Sometimes they bring it up, and the first thing I say is, well, we don't have to talk about it today, but I need you to realize at some point we need to deal with it. At some point we need to lay it all out on the table, and we're going to need to deal with it. So when you deal with men and mental health, the biggest thing is number one, realize you're not alone. That's why I have this shirt on. You're not alone. Every single man deals with this.
Let me back you up a little bit before you just said, and I know you said they suppress it. Do you think they suppress it because of fear and the lack of trust, knowing that what they say will be kept in, I guess, privacy?
Yes, sir. That's the number one reason. Number one reason is judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Judgment. I don't want, number one reason that I've heard men actually tell me is, I don't want people to see that side of me. People don't want people to see their weakness. That's not something people walk around bragging about.
Mm-hmm.
As a man, and I'm not a man, I'm a woman, obviously, but I work with men. As a man, they don't want no one to see their weakness. Now, you can know about it. You can know what they're going through. It's no problem if you know that they lost their job. It's no problem if you know that their wife left them. It's no problem that you know that they're dealing with child support or child custody issues. But after seeing them handle it, they're not going to show that weakness. They're going to put on a good face no matter what, because that's just how they've been trained to handle weaknesses. Don't let people see you down. Don't let people see you hurt.
You think,
so it's a training mindset.
What do you think? Is that training in that? And I'm like, again, as a black man, I'm talking from a black man's perspective. Mm-hmm. Is that society? Is that a part of our culture that's taught us that, like, black men, you don't feel pain, you don't show it, you man up and just handle it?
I think it's a combination of both. I can't put it all on society. I can't put it all on culture, because literally it's just that mentality of who the man is supposed to be as far as head of the house, as far as the leader, as far as the pillar in the community. So literally I can't put it just on society, and I can't put it just on the culture. It's a combination of both. It's a combination of what they've seen in their family. It's a combination of generational things that they might have experienced from other men in their family. So you can't just put it on one thing. There are so many factors that weigh in on how a man sees himself in the world, in his world, not only his job, but his family. It's all about how he sees himself. And so when he projects that onto people, he only wants to project his strength. He never wants to project his weaknesses. And so that's just his way of keeping his sacredness of who he is as a man.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, as far as basically both society and our culture has put a certain structure on how men are supposed to be within our community.
Well, just not being able to show that weakness. Number one, don't show that weakness. It starts off from as little as a 1 or 2 year old. What you crying for? What you crying for? Like, literally, those are little things that they have been taught not to express a common emotion. Mm-hmm. You will allow him to express anger, but you will not allow him to express sadness. You will allow him to express his strength, but you will not allow him to express his weakness. You will allow him to express sorrow if he lost a parent or a pet, but you will not allow him to express that overwhelming anxiety or fear. Like literally, you cannot just shut down certain emotions. That's not humane. And so that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with now. You have so many men that feel like I don't know what to do with my weakness, my sorrow, my sadness, because I've never been allowed to experience it. Every time I experience sadness, somebody told me to man up. Every time I experience worriness, somebody told me, what you worried for? You a man. What you doing that for? And so you never allowed him to cry. You never allowed him to have that fear. You never allowed him to worry. And so because you have canceled out that emotion, the only emotions he knows is strength, happiness, joy. Like those are the only ones that he can really express
You
freely
left, you
without.
left out you left out sex.
Well, I don't know. He might express all of those emotions during sex. It just depends on how happy he is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so you get an understanding of men and men being able to talk, open up, have a safe
Mhm.
place, be in a place where they can trust the people they're talking to, and not feel like what I tell you, you're going to use it to expose. I can tell you this from um, just experience and just being a man that you open up to people who you safely trust. Like men
Yeah,
will talk amongst men, but you won't talk to everybody. You talk to
that's
people
right.
who you feel like if I, and I'm talking about when you start talking about your feelings and stuff. There's not many people you can
Mhm.
trust to where you say, if I tell you this, I'm trusting you with valuable information about me. And
Mhm.
one of the things, with men is men do have a sense of loyalty when they find someone that they
Yeah.
have that ability to talk to. Like
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
just, but they also have a very strong sense of betrayal
Hmm.
that it makes them where it's like you got some playing in the background, like YouTube. So it's giving us some feedback there.
Oh, I'm good over here.
Okay, but it does. I don't know why I keep hearing that feedback, but once um you still you hear that feedback?
I don't hear nothing over here.
Okay, no, I got some serious feedback there. But once men get in a place where they feel like you violated that trust and they feel like they can't open up and trust you, it takes a long time to get a man to open back up to you.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's once you, like, to me, women have a great sense of forgiveness. Like they can, they may not forget, but they can forgive.
Yeah.
With men, it's like they can forgive, but boy, it's hard for them to ever cross that barrier again
Mhm.
because they, like, betrayal is so big, loyalty is so big. Um, and the thing about, as a man, once men open up to you, loyal, loyalty is so big when it comes to that. Like, so if you get any man to let you into his area, his arena, um, the words you say to him or the interaction what you say can literally shut him down to the point
Yep.
where you
Yep.
can't get him back. Um, and,
So
and
true.
and even if you get him back, it's like he got one eye open. Uh,
Yep. Always.
yeah. So it's that's deep. So let me ask something. So how do you help the people of these men, like the loved ones, when they come in? Do anybody come in with their significant other?
No, I have had some people to contact me about their loved one. Their loved one is not quite yet ready to talk about it to me. So one of the things that I have encouraged people that they notice the signs, they notice that the person's behavior has become pretty much predictable. Usually they are no longer taking into their extracurricular activities. They tend to be a little antisocial. And so what I have done is a lot of families that have come to me, whether it be a mother, girlfriend, I've tried to encourage them to be careful what they say. Just like what you said. Like literally our words have power. Like literally there are some things that I know for a fact certain situations was someone said something and they said it in a joking way, but that person took it very seriously and it was very detrimental to their mental stability. And so one of the things that I will always tell people is that if you are dealing with a situation and this person is always getting upset at something you're saying, that means that your words have power. So you're going to have to learn to reserve those words and allow that person to release those feelings so that you can fully understand where they're coming from. Try not to say anything while they're talking. Let them release it all so that you can get a full understanding of what they're trying to say. Now, just like you said earlier, men don't really have the words sometimes. Sometimes they beat around the bush, but women have good insight. Women have very good insight, and they can hear what the man is saying without him actually saying it. And so, like you said, they're going to trust certain people. And those people have to realize the power that they have in their words. And so I try to always encourage people, if you notice any signs or symptoms that you're saying things that trigger a different behavior, then you need to watch what you're saying. And I know what some women say, well, he needs to toughen up. No, ma'am. Because if he trusts you, that means that you have the words to speak life into him or speak death. It's literally up to what you're saying. And so I try to encourage people to listen and let them let it all out. Listen to what they're saying before you respond, which can be hard for us women. It can be hard because we want to have the last word sometimes. But, in order for that person to really feel like they can trust you with that information, you have to give them that time to release that information and those feelings.
Yeah. And that's something I think can help anyone is just, understanding how to listen, because
Mm-hmm.
listening is tough when you're listening to someone you care about that you
Yeah.
it's really tough listening because automatically when you care about somebody and you see them in pain, you go automatically into fix mode.
Mm-hmm.
I want to fix it. I want to do everything I can to help you. And then sometimes by trying to fix it, you actually make it worse
Yep.
than what
That's
it
so,
is. And then the next part of it is the shutdown part of it,
yeah.
where you stop talking. And then when
Mm-hmm.
you stop talking, you kind of drive a wedge, in between you more. So it's
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand just the time you're in with that particular person. Like you said, you just have to learn them. And
Yeah.
does it take forgiveness dealing with people with anxiety
Does it take forgiveness dealing with anxiety?
for the other person?
Well, those are two different feelings because believe it or not, even when you ask somebody, can you forgive them, the anxiety stirs up. So you literally have to deal with the issue first. Forgiveness comes after you have decreased the anxiety.
Okay.
It's not something you can say they work hand in hand because one triggers the other, if that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, like for the loved ones. So let's say um, a, a wife is dealing with a man that has anxiety.
Okay.
Does she have to have a lot of forgiveness because of what he could possibly say or do?
She has to have a lot of patience.
Okay.
That's what she has to have. She has to have patience because forgiveness is really more so if you are trying to pardon somebody for something they intentionally did. And so I would say more so she needs patience. She needs to understand when he's like this, he's going to do this. When he's like that, he's going to do this. So what I need to do as his partner is try to build an environment that will allow his anxiety to be at a very low level. That way he can literally be at peace and in a comfort place where we can get along, basically.
That's a big word with me. Peace.
What? Yes, be at a place of peace.
Peace. If you took a straw poll with men that are married or men that live in a household, and you ask them what's the one thing you want in your house, they won't say a fine wife. They'll say one peace.
Yeah.
If I got my peace, everything else falls into place because it's like, if that's not there, that peace isn't there. I mean, it is really, really tough in that environment.
Yeah.
You know?
Very
So
tough.
so if people want to get in touch with you or they want to find out more about Mad Cave, how do they go about doing that?
They can actually follow us on Facebook at Mad Cave or Instagram Mad Cave OBG. We also have a website, www.madcaveobg.com, where they can find out more information about our organization as well as our partners and just, basically what we do as a whole for a nonprofit organization.
You said that's Mad. Say that website one more time.
www.madcaveobg.com, all lowercase.
Okay, Mad. We want to get that on the screen.
MADCAVEOBG.com.
Definitely, we definitely want to get that up. But because it's really been a pleasure having you on,
Thank you.
talking to you about it. I've known you for a while, and we're gonna get this out. We're gonna chop it, but I think just starting to talk about. I know a lot of people are talking about various things, but I just don't think we. As I sit back and look at it, it started asking the question of well, I'm not sure if we even address mental health and what people are going through because the more people I start coming in contact with, you start seeing that people are dealing with a lot, and in this particular time, they're dealing with more than they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
And on top of that, sense of lost loved ones, getting back to work. It's just so much. And it's like, sometimes people can be on the verge of cracking. And if they have just
Yeah.
that safe place they can go, that they can trust, they can get it out, you might be able to stop someone from doing something drastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I always say mental health is like an onion. You
Yeah.
got to peel each layer back one at a time. It's not something, this is something that people study and research about every day. Like every day is something new. And so every person is different. So I can't say that I deal with every single person the same way because every person teaches me something totally different. And so it's like peeling back an onion. Every single layer is different, but it's all about finding a medium, putting them in a safe place where they are able to sustain themselves when they're alone. That's the biggest thing that I focus on. Being able for them to be able to control their thoughts and being able to prioritize their thoughts so they can function on a normal day-to-day basis.
Hmm. That's good stuff. Well, again, like I told you, this is going to be a channel where, we dig into the mind, body, and spirit and also helping people deal with just everyday problems to become the best version of themselves in the three parts. And
Awesome.
one of the things you have to be sound. Well, you don't have to be sound, but you need to have some way in some form of finding out to things to become the best version of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. This is Chris Carter. I'm out. That's really good.